Welcome to RealCast, the weekly round of real asset markets. My name's Richard Betts, and I'm joined by Dan Innes and Nicole Dines. Nicole, welcome back. What have you been following this week?
News have come back with a bang, really, after the summer break this week. And there have been lots of news on three subjects that we've been following at RealCast and Real Asset Insight very closely. One is ESG and impact investing. The other is foreign investors' capital flows. And the other one is the rise of data centers. And on this last subject, there's an item in the newsletter today that Google is investing 1 billion euros in two massive data centers in Germany, one near Frankfurt and one near Berlin, obviously for their cloud computing business. Interestingly, they're going to be sustainable. From the very beginning, 80% of the electricity will be generated from renewable sources, and that's going to go up to 100% by 2030. It's the biggest investment Google has made in Germany for over 20 years, but it's not the only big tech company to do so. Earlier this year, Apple had invested another 1 billion euros in Munich in a silicon design center, and Microsoft had also opened two cloud data centers in Germany. So it's definitely a space to watch and very interesting. On the foreign investor side, there were a few signs of activity and new investors coming into the European market. There was a real milestone for Hines, the big US group, as Israeli investors. The biggest insurance company in Israel has bought into its flagship fund. It's the very first time, and that they've invested in real estate in Europe. And then they've said that that's just the first step, and now they've established a relationship. They plan to continue investing. So that's good news for Hines, but obviously for European real estate as well. And then another interesting news on foreign investors is there's been a new 500 million euros platform that's being created to invest in senior living in Europe. And interestingly, it's a joint venture between Capital Bay Group and the Gulf Islamic Investments, and they're going to invest into only Sharia-compliant investment in retirement homes across Europe with an initial 500 million euros, but planning to invest more. And obviously, we have followed the senior housing market very closely, and there's a lot of activity happening in that sector as well. Schroders and Civitas have joined forces again to close the impact investing fund with a commitment of nearly 200 million euros. And again, it's just the first step. They plan to invest more in that sector and provide investors with certifiable data and to measure the social impact. Responsible Housing in the UK, there were two developments on that score. Responsible Housing is targeting a listing on the main market of the London Stock Exchange. It wants to raise £250 million to invest into a diversified portfolio of supported houses accommodation across the UK. While again in the UK, Home REIT is launching an open offer to increase capacity, and it's a company that specializes in providing suitable accommodation for the homeless. So the impact investing side, the social awareness side, is definitely on the rise in the real estate sector.
Yes, there's a lot of focus on that area. I did an interview with Tom Carroll, head of EMEA Corporate Research and Strategy at JLL, just in terms of the occupier perspective. And Tom was saying that they were seeing that the proportion of occupiers adopting net zero carbon targets is expected to more than double between now and 2025, and particularly accelerate as we move towards COP26 later this year in Glasgow. Dan, what have you been following?
Well, it's been good to be back at my desk after a bit of holiday. But it's been a busy time following different kinds of trends, not least this working from holiday trend, the WFH, replacing working from home so much. But it's interesting to see that a lot of the agents seem to be continuing to work from the office throughout. The Cushmans, JLLs, X-Props of this world, they need that buzz from their colleagues and sitting around them if they're going to do good business. But I'm thinking that they're going to be the sort of the flag bearers for the return to the office for the real estate community. I've been following mainly retail. There's been a lot happening over the summer months, really. In Friday's FT, in an article by Valentina Romay, she reported visits to UK shops rising in August to the highest level since the first COVID lockdown. And that's boosted by staycations, workers returning to offices, but that's all according to industry data from the BRC, the British Retail Consortium. Despite that uptick, August footfall was still down 18% compared with the same month in 2019, and suggesting that there are still quite a lot of long-term challenges ahead for physical stores. But let's not forget that the UK government has done quite a lot to help UK retail. They did things like they relaxed the mask wearing and self-isolation rules in England back on August the 16th, which kind of helped in some respects. But the data, the BRC data, that also kind of revealed on a rather chilling note that shopping centres registered half the improvement of high street stores, and that visits were still down 1/3 compared to the same month in 2019. But let's hope that's just a slow bounce back, and that they'll be back soon. One of the better headlines came in an article from Forbes, which was Deliveroo and Boots tie up from diapers to dark drugstores. But it means that pharmacy chain Boots, they're going to become the latest British high street retailer to make its products available for home delivery through Deliveroo. And it's going to start with 14 stores around the UK. It's going to make about 400 pharmaceutical products available for rapid home delivery. And let's think about what that means on the real estate side for Deliveroo. Clearly, there's going to be storage and logistics requirements for that kind of growth. It's the latest in their sort of growing business and growing real estate team at Deliveroo, noting that David Ives has joined Deliveroo from Primark recently. But, that's the partnership kind of makes commercial sense for Boots. They're seeking to capitalize on the rise of e-commerce, of course, and targeting an increasingly online customer base. But don't write off the real estate side. Clearly, they haven't, because in separate news, they're going to invest in about 30 new beauty hall elements to their high street stores. And that's kind of part of their new sort of multi-format strategy that aims to give customers better access. Clearly, the Deliveroo story helps with that as well. But they now offer these beauty halls in about 90 of their stores across the UK. And we've seen evidence of beauty hall growth right across Europe, in Paris, in Oslo. And that's been really an interesting side to the retail market. On the retail investment side, this week saw a sale, or an acquisition rather, of Preston's largest shopping centre. Preston's in the northwest of England, and it's quite a significant 270,000 square foot centre. It was originally owned by IRAF UK Dragon, which unfortunately went into administration. But the new owner is already in negotiations to expand and relocate some retailers in the centre to join sort of existing tenants, which are some of the main high street players. But that centre has been bought out by the Alghan group. And they're claiming to be amassing a 1 billion UK sterling portfolio of retail properties by 2023. So there's quite a lot of players in the market, quite a lot of stock in the market, but people are telling me that the quality of that stock is what's in question. So we're looking at the rebasing of pricing, I think, is still going to be a topic of conversation this autumn. And lastly, back to the point, Nicole and Richard, you were making about impact investing. I mean, I'm sure everybody's been really affected by the tragic events going on in Afghanistan in recent weeks. But one silver lining out of that is that Airbnb, they've announced that they're going to help up to 20,000 Afghan refugees as part of its charitable aim. The company is going to coordinate with Airbnb hosts who are going to want to offer their homes to refugees. And it's also going to be funded by Airbnb co-founder Brian Chesky. So clearly, I think impact investing and some of those other ESG elements that we've been speaking about in recent months are going to be really flying high up the agenda this week.
Yeah, that's a really interesting initiative, I think, there by Airbnb. And on the retail side, interesting to get back to the resurgence of live events and people meeting in person. There'll be Revo Completely Retail event, London Real Estate Forum, and also obviously this week, MIPIM. I'll be in Cannes, so it'll be interesting to see that as the first sort of event where people are meeting in person, and then obviously on to Expo Real in October. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, just to see the market begin to pick up and come back to life a little bit in terms of those physical events. Thanks very much, Dan. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to the autumn, and look forward to seeing you next week for our regular roundup of the week in real assets. Thank you.